Welcome to episode 291 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Hello, Palou, and Football Overload edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host. And as always, I'm with my co host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, gentleman and a scholar, and someone who was driving around with people who might have been sampling Buffalo Trace. Um, Distilling in celebration of Dale Jr. and Justin Allgaier announcing they're going to be back at the 500 next year. His name is Joshua Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. Yeah, great to be back on the show. And yeah, what you're saying there, I went I guess went to this go-karting league on Monday night and I was surprised that they allowed alcohol. I mean, it was not just a go-kart place, but they had other stuff. There was a, entertainment center place, but yeah, they did serve alcohol there and I was a little shocked, but it wasn't that bad, I guess, because maybe it's just having one or two, and if you're like 200 pounds, and it's not that bad. But for me at 150, it's like, well, can't handle that much. So before it starts getting to me, but yeah, no, it's interesting there. That was good. Third place in the B main there. So all good stuff. And of course, we'll talk about it in football segment, but Jags fundamentally dismantling the Chargers on Sunday. So that was pretty good as well. So yeah, ready to get into it.
I somehow still won in the league that I had Justin Herbert starting in. Of course, that's one of the ones that I had won last year, but I'm definitely not going to win it this year. Justin Herbert, I think, at about 5 points in standard scoring or something. And somehow or another, I still won that week. So I don't know. But yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about football today on this edition of the GSP uh, because we're getting down to nitty gritty in terms of fantasy football. Playoffs are coming soon. We're in the last, 6 weeks of the season and 6, 7 weeks of the season. So we're getting down to where we're going to figure out who can make the playoffs and who is already looking towards to 2026 and what quarterback they're probably going to draft. Um, we'll get into, of course, Josh's Jaguars and my 49ers going out there, Brock Purdy doing a two-step on the Arizona Cardinals and just fucking them up. Arizona really never had a chance. Beat them by 20 points or whatever, 19 points. Uh, so that was fun to see. And George Kittle got to 50 touchdowns as a San Francisco 49er. Gets the third all time in terms of best tight end quarterback combinations in the history of the 49ers with, I think, what was it, Steve Young and Brent Jones, and then Alex Smith and Vernon Davis. And the Brock and GK connection is one of the best ever in the history of this great franchise. So we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about everything else that's going on in the NFL and early thoughts on this weekend's games for our teams and what we're looking for. Because especially for Josh, the division still in play in the AFC South for sure. Indianapolis coming off a bye, but scuffling. They'll be playing Kansas City, no less, so that's also another thing. Jacksonville with the momentum, trying to win the division for the first time in a couple of years. Also make a playoff push here. The AFC looks wide open because Kansas City is not what they have been. The 49ers are just trying to hold on. It looks like a great offense. The offense is coming together, minus the wide receivers, it seems like, but we have a tight end, we have two running backs, and we got the quarterback again. Could make a run, not to go deep in the playoffs, but to make the playoffs would be good considering we have like half our team is dead. That would be something. We'll also talk about 2025 IndyCar season. First of our season recap episodes. Been a while since mid-September, so 2 months since the season ended. had testing already for 2026. We've had announcements of new rides and drivers moving up, but it's always great to look back and see the greatness that is Alex Palou and what he's been able to do in the IndyCar series, and dominated this season. Uh, Basically, uh, didn't matter where they raced, he won, and didn't matter how the race went, he figured out a way to win too. So we'll get back into that and some of the other standouts that were there. And on the flip side, the issues that Penske Racing had this year, and some of the changes that have come because of that. We'll in the roundup, we'll talk about NASCAR news updates, including mentioning with Dale Jr. and um, Justin Allgaier and running the 500. A bunch of Xfinity partnerships were announced. Looks like Haas Factory Team, which is basically going to be Hendrick Light, is going to be like a 5 or 6 car team now. Uh, with who they've got connected with them. Of course, that doesn't take into account, of course, JRM, which is the Hendrick team, and you have the Hendrick 17 car. So must be nice when you're basically going to have 12 Hendrick cars out there every single week. But, we'll see how that all works out. But it looks like the Xfinity series is going to be a 2-manufacturer series next year with Chevy and Toyota. There really ain't going to be any Fords. There's not going to be any Fords, which is a big time fail. Not sure what Ford representation will be there in the truck series. I guess Door Sports still, but you look at Ford's representation in the big 3 series, they have none in the Xfinity, and then you only have one team in trucks. That's not good, especially if you're trying to develop talent. But in terms of developing talent, Colleague Racing going a new way with it. We'll talk about that also in the news. We'll recap Valencia for MotoGP, Sandown 500 supercars, great racing there this past weekend in the playoff semifinal for V8 supercars. World finals at Pomona were rained out for the NHRA, so Brittany Force did not get to have one last race, unfortunately, before she retires to start a family. But points and champions were determined and the like. Look at the Macau Grand Prix if it's worth looking at it. And then the F1 Academy season finale at Las Vegas this coming weekend, which will lead into our F1 Las Vegas Grand Prix preview and picks. We will have Josh talk about all things iRacing and gaming in the sim segment, the Hoosier 500 prep, of course, having to be there because it's a huge field, trying to make that show. It's like old school Indy 500 that way. And then we'll call it a day. So, yeah, let us go into the NFL first. I know that for us, trade deadline is coming up this week. Oh, look. Oh, that's awesome. Penix is out for the rest of the season. That's cute. God, you want to talk about what a job I did in that draft. I tell you, I drafted JJ McCarthy. I drafted Michael Penix. They both stink. And then I somehow or another, if I didn't draft Kermit the Frog, I would have lost every game this year. Like literally. That's basically what this is. If I had not drafted Kermit the Frog, if my aversion to Kermit the Frog, I let it slide. If I did not let it slide, I would have figured out a way to literally go from first to last in this league. That's what I was trying to do. What a nightmare. Christ almighty. And it shows how bad quarterback play is once you get past a certain few. But yeah, I mean, we'll go back into the standings. We'll go. Wanted to go back actually, not standings. I wanted to look back at last week's results, but fighting with the NFL.com website here. Yeah, it's spazzed out. Awesome. That's one of the 9 senior semifinalists for the Hall of Fame is the great Roger Craig. Hopefully, he finally gets his chance to join a lot of his teammates in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because he was one of the best running backs in the NFL in his time. I think he goes underappreciated for what he did and how he did it. From his time. So I'll look at that in a little bit. But going to week 11. So last week, Patriots went and whooped up on the Jets to go to 9-2. The Dolphins won in overtime against the Redskin General Commanders after Mariota threw an interception in the first play from scrimmage in overtime. Carolina beat the Atlanta Falcons. That's where Penix ended up getting hurt. What is it? I always forget his effing name. The trying to bring up stats. Bryce Young, yeah. Bryce Young threw for 448 and 3 touchdowns in that game, and they're a half game out of first place. So that's something to look at in that division. Carolina actually has a real chance to make the playoffs for the first time in years, which is insane to think, considering how poorly they're run. Go back to Bills and Buccaneers are in a shootout. Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns, 3 passing, 3 rushing. Ridiculous stat line. Josh already mentioned the destruction that happened in Duval. I swear that Jim Harbaugh, part of the problem for Jim Harbaugh used to take his teams, especially when he was at the 49ers, and bring them out to the East Coast, I think, earlier so that they could get acclimated. I don't know if he does that anymore with the Chargers, because this is at least the second time this season where they had to make a 1 o'clock game and they just absolutely shit the bed. I think they did a similar performance against the Giants with Jackson Dart, one of Jackson Dart's first starts. So doing a similar thing in a 1 o'clock game. Bears end up fading the Vikings. Vikings had to make a run in the fourth quarter. J.J. McCarthy was so bad. I think he had about 40 yards passing through 3 quarters. Packers end up holding on to beat the Giants, and Jameis Winston, who threw an interception in the end zone, trying to tie the game. Bengals had no chance against the Steelers, even though Rodgers got hurt. Texans hold on to beat the Titans, even though the Titans, for one of the first times all year, actually showed some level of fight. I mentioned the 49ers destroying the Cardinals. The Rams and Seahawks, it was a much closer game than it really was. The Rams picked Sam Darnold off 4 times in that game. And the deer in the headlights, whatever that he says that he had from back in the day when he had to play against the Patriots, he has that now with the Rams because he seems to figure out a way to play really bad against the Rams. Um, he's not as bad as J.J. McCarthy, but, that's still not a good thing when you have to play them twice. Ravens somehow another back got out of Cleveland with a win, probably because the Cleveland Browns don't have a functional offense that could even beat an ACC team, let alone um, the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens played terrible in that game too, and they somehow or another still won because they got the joy of playing um, against Shador Sanders and uh, what's his face, the other quarterback, the lefty. But the
Which lefty?
the lefty for Cleveland, the rookie, um,
Dylan Gabriel?
Gabriel. Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, that's him. They're like, oh, there's three Hawaiian quarterbacks. There's three guys from Hawaii who are starting quarterbacks in the NFL this week. And oh, yeah, that's crazy. And I have nobody from certain states. We got three from Hawaii. It's pretty crazy. Um, Broncos hold on to beat the Chiefs, and now the Chiefs are 3.5 games out of the division and have a likely scenario of having to go on the road playing 4 games to uh or yeah, three games. Yeah, right. Yeah. We're gonna be a wild card divisional and yeah, they'd have to go on the road 3 times to get to Santa Clara to go to the Super Bowl, more than likely. The Eagles and Lions, it was an ugly contest, but Eagles end up winning. Um, Cowgirls didn't really have to worry about it because they were playing the Raiders. Um, yeah, so I mean, that's I didn't watch anything with that game because that game was not really anything I could give two fucks about. Currently in the playoff picture, excuse me, Broncos in the AFC and Patriots are tied for the number one uh, seed. Currently, I guess the Broncos have whatever tiebreaker over the Patriots. The Colts and the Steelers are your two other division leaders. The Bills, Chargers, and Jaguars. Jaguars would be your number 7.
Yep.
1 game lead on 3 teams: Texans, Chiefs, and Ravens. Um, the Chiefs, as I mentioned, have to play uh, Indianapolis. Baltimore has to play the Jets, so that's a win, or you'd think there would be a win, but then they made it interesting against Cleveland. And then the Texans will be playing against Buffalo. Chargers will be on a bye. So even with that, they'll still be at 7-4, even with some of their ugly performances they put in recently. Um, After that, that's really the end of that in the AFC. In the NFC, the Eagles and the Rams are both 8-2. And of course, the Eagles have the tiebreaker on the Rams. With the head-to-head, the Bears lead the North. Buccaneers lead the South. Then you have the Seahawks, Packers, and 49ers currently in the playoff race. They are a half game ahead of the Lions. They are a full game ahead of the Panthers. And honestly, that's really it. There a lot of help would have to come from for the Cowgirls, or yeah, I mean basically, yeah. So right now there's really 9 teams in the NFC and 10 teams in the AFC that are still in the mix for the playoffs. Um, Nobody's been eliminated yet, but you could basically venture to say, um, I would venture to say everybody 13th on down, maybe even 12th on down, is post. Because they have like 1 or 2% chance to make it in. But um, yeah, I mean the Niners going out there getting that victory against Arizona, Brock coming back, playing good was a great thing. Um, Offensively, I think they have enough to make it in. Detroit's going to be hard to fade, but the schedule also kind of leans in the favor of the 49ers. The Rams are probably not, if unless they're battling Seattle for the division, um, it may actually behoove them to not play anybody, and then they might be able to get that win late in the season. Um, so then that's something that we have to look at too for the Niners in general. They they play the Carolina Panthers on Monday Night Football this coming weekend or coming Monday. So we'll probably be doing the show while it's going on. So that'll be nice. Uh, the random schedule. So yeah, so then they'll be playing a 1 o'clock game against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Bye week. Then they come back and play Tennessee at home. 4:25. They'll have a Monday night game against Indianapolis. Then a Sunday night game against and then Sunday night game at home against Chicago, which will be huge. Um, they already played the Rams twice, so there you go. They lost to them last week. My bad. So the Seattle game may not matter for either team at that point. They both probably have their situations set, but that's really where they if they can get through this 4 game stretch, counting what they did against the Cardinals, get through the Titans. Um, those last 3 games will dictate the 49ers' fate in regards to um, where they are, if they're going to be in the playoffs or not. And as I mentioned, really only the Lions are in play. If they can knock the Panthers off, it makes it much easier. If they lose to the Panthers, then it becomes a sweat. I mean, the Seahawks will be playing the Titans this week, so you would assume they'll bounce back. The Rams will be playing Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football. So the Buccaneers couldn't stop anything against Buffalo. So I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to stop anything against the Rams. But defensively for the 49ers, there's challenges there on all 3 levels. They lost they lost Tatum Bethune during the game on Sunday. So it's like we don't have any linebacker play, secondary play. I mean, corner wise, Diamador Lenore is playing great, but even he gets beat. And after him, it's hard for these guys to really compete right now. They're too young, too raw. Rush really isn't amazing. And, when you're playing against top teams, it's one thing. Which is like Seattle, when you have Chicago coming up, who, Caleb Williams is becoming this Houdini motherfucker who fades sacks and spins out of shit. You got Daniel Jones, who's not that Indianapolis offensive line is beatable, even though they do have a lot of names. They have shown a propensity to be beatable, which Josh you'll mention here shortly, but I mean, I think this stretch for the 49ers getting through trying to keep everybody upright through some of these crappy teams, beat them good, stack those victories, put themselves in the mix, and then they have that last 3 game stretch against Indy, Chicago, and Seattle, which will likely dictate whether they have more January football or if they're going to be on to holidays early, taking their sweet time off. Um, but there is that. In terms of uh, fantasy for my teams, um, we have to go. Yeah, there you go. Going in that. So it's like we're in my league. I'm in the in fifth after last week. Um, was able to win. I think they're trying to remember offhand. I don't know. Of freaking 4 teams is trying to remember where I'm at with each team, but uh, then yeah, it's not good. No, we'll delete that later. Katie takes flight with the Rockets and races new. Geens is frustrated about Yankees rumors. Why? He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go to the Yankees. He wants to play for the Pittsburgh Pirates for the rest of his career. Okay. You never win anything. That's cute. But yeah, so we'll go back into so last week I was able to beat Luke. Had to make a comeback on Monday night to do it. Devin White, I think, was the difference maker in that. Devin White with 19.5 points helped me out on that one. Ladede McConkey didn't do shit, of course, because that was that game against the Jags. McCarthy was absolute dog shit. Jawan Jennings only had 4 receptions and 54 yards, so I do not know how to get IDPs for shit. That's basically what my problem is too. Penix gets hurt, now he's done. Marvin Harrison was out with the appendicitis. I had picked up Sean Tucker. That looks like a huge pickup. We'll see if it's going to make a difference moving forward. Go back into the rest of the team. So Joe with a win beats Jeff by about 7 points. I won by about 8 points. Josh had a tough one there. You had against Steve. Vic gets himself back in the mix by beating Wilson with the high points of the week, 231. Matt loses to Manny basically because Manny has Josh Allen. Yeah, that literally his whole entire he has 197 points and 96 of them were from Josh Allen and Kyle Hamilton. So there you go. That's literally he had all of his productivity from 2 guys. If Manny wins any kind of money, he better give me a cut because that bastard wouldn't have drafted Josh Allen and he'd finish last in this league like he has been all these other years. But yeah. So now as we stand, Yeah, Tajay Spear. Oh, so he got dropped. Okay, Pearsall got dropped. I picked up Bryce Young. Interesting. In terms of the league right now, it is Wilson's only a game ahead of Joe and Manny for first. Lost last 2 weeks. You know, Matt, myself are at 6-5. I have a very low. I have the second lowest total for points for this season, but my points against is somewhat in the ballpark. Um, then you have Steve, Vic, Luke, all a game behind, and then what do you call Josh? You're also in it still, 2 games
Hanging on
out,
by a thread.
hanging on by a thread, but you're still in it. So there's still a chance here. We got what 3 weeks, right? So 2 weeks to go, right? Is that what it is?
We have 3 weeks.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then it's 3 weeks counting this week. Yeah, so 3 weeks left. Trade deadline is this weekend. So I mean, in terms of that, so still in the mix in this league. Dead in my second league, Faithful to the Bay, even though I pulled out a victory last week against another bad team. There definitely is the haves and the have-nots in this league. There's like 3 teams that are in the tank, and then you have a pretty good mix, basically 2 games separating third through ninth in the league. So it's a shame that I'm not even in them, even competitive. It's just bad drafting, not being able to look at it. The bullshit that I was dealing with at my shitty job that I used to have. Um, I'm in first place in a league that I didn't even draft for. Um, so that tells you all you need to know. I guess the one where I didn't do anything with it is the one I actually got the most luck with this year. So that's cute. So yeah, that's my football recap for this week. Josh, you had a great performance and demolition. Uh, in the demolition in Duval, as I like to call it, because that was not even a contest. Looked like Trevor Lawrence looked like he was back at Clemson. Um, you're able to deal for wherever, whenever, and running game. I mean, Tootin going down, not ideal. I'm not sure anybody else that got nicked up for you guys, but you guys are playing great. New coach, new regime. It seems like the energy is back, um, and you have a good shot in that division. The division is still in play with a good 6-7 weeks left to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, yeah, the division for us, it's in play, but we're gonna have to have Indianapolis have some L's fall our way here. Yeah, definitely with the way it's going, it's gonna come down to Indianapolis in um, December 7th. So yeah, the biggest battle since Pearl Harbor for sure there, but no, they've got that challenge. They've also got the Broncos up for it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then they still have to play the Colts twice. They haven't even played the Colts at all. So they still got to play them. But otherwise, I mean, other than that, the fourth easiest schedule remaining in the National Football League. So other than that, they've got Arizona coming up. The Titans, they play the Jets after they play the Colts. They played the Titans the last week of the season. I'm trying to think who else do they. Yeah, and I think the Colts and the Broncos they still have to play. So if Jacksonville can win out, if you assume that they just lose the games against the Broncos and the Colts, then I think they'll at least have a wild card. They'll have a wild card for sure. Not at least. They'll definitely be a wild card team in that respect. But they're gonna have to beat Indianapolis and I guess Indianapolis. I think you guys play Indianapolis the week that we play the Broncos on. I think December 21, I think, or something like that. So yeah, for us, I think gonna have to be rooting for the 49ers that day for y'all. Which I mean, it's another East Coast trip, but I think for the 49ers, I think they're starting to get back. I mean, it seems like they might be getting back into it now. So as a team with the end of the season coming up, so we'll see how that goes. Be interesting. I know you guys have had a lot of injuries and stuff, but it'll be interesting to see the 49ers go up against the defense, go up against the Colts offense there, and what y'all can do against Jonathan Taylor and everything. But yeah, as far as Jacksonville, Sunday, just complete destroying of the Chargers there. For us, I mean, early on, it wasn't looking that good. Trevor did have a missed fourth down conversion, then an interception. But they defensively they played great throughout the game. And running game really good. 180 yards rushing for the Jacksonville on the day. So definitely a great rushing output for Jacksonville there. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think Arizona, they said Marvin Harrison's out, DeMarcado out for this game. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch them go up against the Cardinals there. Be their third West Coast trip this year because they went to the San Francisco 49ers, and then they went to Las Vegas, and then they'll have to go back across the Mississippi once again later in the year to go up against Denver before Christmas. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, definitely in at least good position to get a wild card. Division a little bit harder. There's even a path. I looked at this as well. There's even a path where they could go get the number 1 seed, but that would require them to win out and a lot of other things to happen. So probably not as likely, but still interesting to kind of see that play out, just playing around with the different scenarios there on ESPN on there. So yeah, we'll see how that goes for us. And of course, yeah, you mentioned, Tootin got hurt there towards the end of the game. I think he had an ankle injury, so he's questionable today in practice. ETN had a shoulder injury as well, questionable. So I have to look at those throughout the week, but I imagine game day, at the very least, I think ETN probably should be active. Tootin, it did look kind of, I mean, I won't say it's bad, but definitely looked like he was a little hurt there on Sunday, so not sure how good he'd be for the game on Sunday, but we'll have to see. But yeah, great game for Jacksonville, of course. Also, Josh Allen taking the record for sacks in Jacksonville history over Tony Brackens. So got his 56th career sack on Justin Herbert there on Sunday. So yeah, definitely great career for Josh Allen. I mean, there's a lot, whether you say he's really how good he truly is, but he's definitely put up the numbers for sure. And finally, I mean, it's been a little bit of a down year in terms of numbers for him, because I'm sure that people probably expected him to get this early on, because it's only his 3rd or 4th sack this season. So the Jacksonville defensive line just hasn't put up as much point or production as what you had hoped, especially with Allen, Trayvon Walker, and Eric Armstead there. So yeah, definitely not as good as what they have been, but this past game definitely showed what they are capable of here. So we'll see how they can go the rest of the way, especially going up against Denver and Indianapolis. Can they stop those teams with their defensive line. That'll be an interesting matchup to watch there. But yeah, as far as the rest of the rest of the league, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, be interesting to see. I think New England, obviously, they have 9-2, but I mean, I think I have to wonder how good they'll be in the playoffs when everything actually matters. Because, with the way that their schedule has gone, they've had it pretty easy so far. To now go into the meat of the schedule here, as we go into Thanksgiving and go into December and Christmas. So we'll see how that goes, and if they can continue it on for a playoff spot. They look like they'll probably clinch the AFC East more than likely, but are they going to be a one and done team in the playoffs, or they're going to be able to actually sustain something with what they've done so far this year? So we'll have to see about that. Fantasy wise for me, just took another loss here. I mean, bye week for the Colts, so I did not have Jonathan Taylor, who's been my MVP for my team this year. So just wasn't able to have the best output. DeMarcado on the Cardinals injured early on in that game, so I probably shouldn't have started him going up against the 49ers. Honestly, that was probably not a good idea, but projections wise seemed like it'd be okay. I was thinking about getting Kenneth Gainwell before that, before Sunday, but because he was on the waivers, but the predictions were like, oh, he's not going to have a good game. He'll probably not see a lot of carries, and then he goes out and puts 36 points in our league. So, just how things go, I guess. But kind of hanging on by a thread. I've basically got out of lives here to lose. So I've got to win out, I think, to make it in the playoffs, and you have to hope, at the very least, hope that I tie, because I know if I tie with anybody in the playoffs, I think I should win that tiebreaker, since I've got the second highest points in our league here. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. I go up against Wilson this week. I'm already, projections wise, saying I've got a 63% chance of winning right now, so we'll see how that goes as we go throughout the rest of the weekend here, tomorrow night through Monday night. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I got around to doing things on Sunday and look up at fantasy, and I'm already down like 40 points because Brooks, the linebacker on the Dolphins, posted up 45 points. I'm like, what the heck? Sometimes it's just how it goes. So we'll see how it goes. Now I'm basically going to be depending on other people having to win. I think I have to be rooting for Matt, or not Matt, the guy that owns the Hertz team. I gotta root for him to beat somebody.
Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. I gotta root for Jeff to beat I think Steve. Yeah, and gotta root for Manny to beat I think to beat Vic. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough going here the rest of the way, but gonna have to start rooting for other people to have good games, and obviously have to win out. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, plenty of football to be played. Thanksgiving, of course, coming up next week, and so a lot of good opportunities here. We're in what week? Now we're in week 12, so we got week 12, so 7 weeks to go in the regular season. So that's definitely opportunity to make something happen. I do agree on the Patriots. I don't know if they're really ready for prime time as of yet. I think they've played very well considering their schedule, considering a bunch of things kind of playing into their favor, proving once again how stupid the Tennessee Titans ownership is, in that they let Mike Vrabel go. and now he's taking the New England Patriots with a quarterback. And a year ago they were nowhere, and now they're gonna make the playoffs, and they got 2001 vibes going in the process with Drake May. So, but yeah, I think Buffalo, they're sneaky. I think even though there are holes and they're not anywhere near as good as they have been the last few years, they're sneaky. And in Kansas City, on the ropes is an interesting thing to see, and probably that's going to help my cause in the sense of having Mahomes having to play. In all these recent years, he hasn't really had to play as much or do as much. Now he's having to prove why he's the guy that the NFL promotes more than anybody. And that'll be however he goes is where I'm going to go. So if he goes in the tank, then I'm probably getting an exit out of my own league. And if he plays like Kermit has played for so long, I'll at least have a chance at a playoff. Whether it goes any further than 1 week is a whole different story, but we'll see what happens with that. Uh, yeah, so move on from football and get back into the IndyCar series, which was quite a year. Alex Palou um, goes out there and absolutely um, demolishes the field. Um, it was a it didn't really matter what track it was, what type of track it was, but he was able to do it everywhere. Um, he started the year winning six of the first, what is it, five of the first six races, six out of the first nine, before he kind of slowed down later in the year. The big one, of course, winning in the Indianapolis 500 for his first oval win of his career. He followed that up with a win at Iowa Speedway later in the year. And then his last win, he had 5, 6, 7. His eighth and final win of the season was at Laguna Seca, which basically won him the title. You had Paddle um, ended up winning a couple of races. Iowa race one in Toronto. Uh, Kirkwood, I mentioned, won 3 races. Dixon continued his streak of like 800 years of winning a race. Winch Power won one last time for Penske. Joseph Newgarden ended the season with a win at home at Nashville. And sandwiched between that was Christian Rasmussen getting his first career win at the Milwaukee Mile. And then promptly crashing into the wall, turn one, lap two at Nashville to end the year. But yeah, it's been 2.5 months, Jesus Christ, since the IndyCar season ended. And they won't be starting until, what is it, end of early March, too. So that's brutal.
Yeah.
But in terms of, yeah, I mean, that view by driver, no, that's by points. Uh, Yeah, Alex Palou ended up winning the championship by nearly 200 points over Pato O'Ward. Dixon was third, Kirkwood fourth, and Christian Lundgaard in his first year at McLaren was fifth. Colton Herta and Felix Rosenquist tied for sixth in points. Marcus Armstrong, Will Powers, Scott McLaughlin round out your top 10. Lucas was 11th, and we know that he will be taking over the 12 at Penske. Newgarden finished 12th in points, Christian Rasmussen finishes 13th in points after his first career win. Um, Rinus VK didn't have a ride until a couple of weeks before the season started. Joined Dale Coyne, had to fade, possibly missing the Indianapolis 500. Um, did that and was able to finish 14th in points, uh, beating some other, some bigger budget teams like ECR, Floyd, who has a Penske support. You have a Ganassi car there, uh, all of the Ray Hall cars, Siegel. So and now, I mean, so that's that. I mean, you had 27 full time competitors in this series. Uh, Basically the vast majority of the season. So yeah, I mean, for Alex Palou, it was unbelievable. His fourth IndyCar championship, and it's something when we look at the domination, the greatness of IndyCar, the former champions. It's his third consecutive championship and fourth in 5 years. Uh, you have, Newgarden had won a couple of titles there. Dixon, Powers won a couple of titles, separated by about 8 years there. You had Pagano. So it was Penske and Ganassi, of course, winning. The last non-Penske or Ganassi champion um, in the IndyCar series was Ryan Hunter-Reay in 2012. And that was, and then you look at Dario was with Ganassi and Ganassi with Dixon. So in Franchitti, Dario when he was with Andretti. So yeah, Andretti is the only other team that's won a championship going all the way back to um 2003. Uh, that's it. There's only been 3 teams that have won an IndyCar championship since 2003. Um, that's crazy to think. Yeah, Penske, Ray, or was it Andrew?
Andretti.
Yeah, Andretti, Penske, and Ganassi. That's it. Um, um, with the IRL days, you had Panther Racing, and then you had Hamilgar there. But that's as far you're going back 20 plus years, 22 years is something, uh, which is what Pat O'Ward's trying to fade. Um, getting in somehow or another get out of that window. I mean, just look at some of the stats. Palou 8 wins, 13 podiums, 6 poles, led 778 laps, average start of 3.4, average finish of 4.1, ran at the finish of 16 of 17 races, and won by nearly 200 points, as I mentioned. Award at his best year of his career, finished second in points, won 2 races, 6 podiums, 3 poles, led the second most laps on the series. Uh, Dixon, super consistent, got the 1 win, only 3 podiums. His start position is probably part of what affected his overall. He had the worst starting position of anybody within the first 12 in points, and he somehow or another finished third, largely because his average finish was he'd move up about 4 positions a race every single race. Finished every race there. Kirkwood 3 wins, all of them. Those are his only podiums on the year. Lundgaard had 6 podium finishes, tying his teammate Pato O'Ward. And then after that, it kind of trickles down to not a lot for everybody else. Uh, but yeah, you had Will Power got a win, Newgard and Rasmussen, guys who won races. But I mean, all the PR Fox did, and it was about Palou, it was about Newgard, and it was about Pato. In the end, it was really about Palou most of all the year. Pato ended up being that next guy, albeit it was on and off because it's always been on and off with McLaren and Pato O'Ward. And then at the end of the year, Newgarden decided to show up again on an oval in what was a chaotic and turbulent year one that we haven't seen in a very, very long time for Penske Racing. But it started about Palou, and it was really all about Palou in 2025.
Yeah, for Alex Palou, I mean, yeah, very dominant season. The only thing that, I mean, he didn't get was like a lot of the street course races, which of course went to Kyle Kirkwood there. So that was the other guy that was really good this year was Kyle Kirkwood, but really only on the street races there. But yeah, I mean, the Fox commercial basically propelled Alex Palou to another IndyCar title and the Indianapolis 500. Yeah, in the midst of it, of course, going through this lawsuit with McLaren, of course, and will be with Ganassi for the foreseeable future as they work to pay off all of that. But yeah, I mean, there's really nothing else that you can say. I think just the way that the hybrid kind of came into play this year, especially with how Alex Palou, his driving style, how he's been able to adapt to the hybrid system. I mean, I think he just had a driving style that fit him better than pretty much the rest of the field. And there were points during the season where he was doing things that looked like Scott Dixon was doing things a couple 3 or 4 years ago, before Palou really started dominating and everything. So yeah, Alex just has figured it out right now, and with the series staying as it is in terms of technology, I mean, I can't help but think he'll try to repeat it again, unless Penske, which they've been on the down trend the last couple of years, unless they make some massive turnaround, or McLaren can somehow put it together for a whole season. It's going to be really hard to stop Alex Palou here on the year. So it's continued to be his year, and as long as it stays that way, I mean, he'll be the face of IndyCar for a while now. So I think you have to give him a lot of credit for doing what he's done since he came into the series. After 2020, he's been the driver to beat here in this series. So credit to him and what he's been able to do. But yeah, as far as the rest of the field, like you mentioned, Pato O'Ward close second there in the standings. But I think for a lot of the season, it looked like his teammate in the 7, Christian Lundgaard, had a great season. Fell to 5th in the standings at the end, but he also had a ton of podiums with 6 on the year. So just didn't have the finishes quite as much as the consistency that Pato O'Ward ended up having, especially in the second half of the year there. So for McLaren, I mean, they had a fairly good year between those two cars, but then you look at their third car with Nolan Siegel finishing 23rd in the standings, just constantly in the back throughout the whole year. It's crazy how it's obviously he's not ready for that ride, but now he's in there for some reason, and you'll have to wonder if they had the third car that performing on the same level as the 5 and the 7, could McLaren reach that level that they haven't yet in being a consistent championship contender throughout the year. So, um, yeah, we'll see what they can do next year. Maybe their success in F1 will trickle down into IndyCar for McLaren next year. So, yeah, we'll see there. And obviously, yeah, Penske making massive changes after the embarrassment that they had after Indianapolis 500 qualifying, or during Indianapolis 500 qualifying, and the fallout from that. Obviously, Joseph Newgarden had a really bad year until the final race, winning at his home track there. But obviously, Scott McLaughlin, massive disappointment on the year with the way things turned out for him, especially with the wreck at the Indianapolis 500 on not even making the start there. So Will Power leaving Penske Racing after a long time. The only one, other than Newgarden, the only one to win in a Penske car throughout the whole season, and he's getting the boot, and he'll be going to Andretti. Getting the replacement is with David Malukas, so we'll see if they can turn it around. Kind of reminds me of how Penske at the end of the '90s, they were really bad, and they finally changed. They went from their in-house chassis to doing what everybody else was doing and getting the supplier chassis, and that helped them turn it around before they went to IndyCar. So yeah, we'll see if what Penske can do here if they have a similar type of turnaround, because obviously Roger Penske doesn't like the fact that this has happened with the whole attenuator scandal that happened back in May. So with the changes, firing Tim Cindric among other people, I think that they believe that they want to get back to being as competitive as what they were a couple of years ago. So I think that's definitely going to be a high priority to get them back to the level that they expect to be for Penske there. So, yeah, I mean, it was a IndyCar. I mean, I think, in terms of TV ratings, they definitely showed some growth. So hopefully next year, especially, they have a new Grand Prix with the Arlington Grand Prix, and they're also going to be on weekend with sharing with NASCAR at Phoenix, so they'll get another oval back. They'll also be sharing with the Truck Series in St. Pete to open the seasons for IndyCar. So seems like there's beginning to finally be a bit of growth here in IndyCar after years of stagnation. So hopefully continue the positive trend there for the series and get more eyeballs and get more attention here on the series, because obviously, pound for pound, I think we both say that this is probably one of the best. I think probably the best series in the country right now. I mean, NASCAR's had its up and downs and everything. IMSA obviously endurance racing, but I think for the level of racing you're getting here in IndyCar, it's been fairly good, even with the domination of Alex Palou the last couple of years. So hopefully trends continue, and we see more positivity from IndyCar.
Yeah, and with the promotion, with Fox buying into the series, you would hope that would help. The new venues, as you mentioned, with running around all the stadiums, that the Dallas whatever Cowgirl Stadium, and then Globe Life where the Rangers play, that street course. You have new venues, have different options, combining with NASCAR, trying to combine with IMSA. That is kind of the angle. I think Fox leveraging both of their products that they have there early in the season. And then as the season goes on, of course, with baseball coming in, they're fading it so that they don't have it against football, but having to promote their drivers. And I mean, now that Colton Herta has moved to Formula 2 with the eventuality of going to Formula 1. There's no like young American driver that is a standout. Maybe Lucas becomes that now that he goes to Penske, but they have to promote Pato. They have to promote Alex Palou. They have to promote these guys. And there's some interesting guys that are cool. They're funny. They have personalities, and that's what they need to be doing. Um, they cover the race coverage itself. At times left something to be desired, but I think in the end, we're having every race on network TV is better than nothing. Um, Having the access that we do have and qualifying sessions and whatever I think is also good. So there are good things. IndyCar likes to step on their own dicks, and it's been that way for decades. But they have the issue with the car taking forever to make a new car. We have situation with what do you call uh, the Prema team, who's a non-chartered team, and they're having a hard time finding budgets, and we still don't know for sure if they're going to be back in 2026. Um, and that's after Robert Schwartzman went and had one of the most epic performances, at Indianapolis in recent memory on qualifying day to go and qualify on pole for the Indianapolis 500. You had Callum Ilott last year picked up after Indy and really, you know, showed his prowess, but now he's um, gone back and hedged with the WEC to run with the Cadillac team, the Joda Sport Cadillac team, where he came from. Was an IndyCar, went back to sports cars, ran with Joda Sport, um, won a race overall in the customer car. Now they're a full Cadillac factory effort. So he's going back there, and I don't think he'll be back. So there is that. Um, in terms of the drivers for um, next year, I mean, we'll go. I mean, no major changes for the top six in points. We mentioned Colton Hurd, of course, has moved on. He'll go to Formula 2 next year. Will Power will be taking over his place. The 12 car is going to be taken over by David Malukas. The 4 car will be driven by Kyle Collette from the Indy Next series, who finished second in the points to the runaway champion Dennis Hauger. Dennis Hauger will be taking over the 18 car for Dale Coyne Racing in partnership with Andretti. So essentially, that 18 Dale Coyne car will be a fourth Andretti car next year. We don't know the second car, TBA car, will be announced, I think, at the end of the month. Who that'll be. There are a few players in that. Linus Lundqvist, Connor Daly, a couple other people. I think Roman Grosjean, for whatever reason. Also, no changes at ECR. Root Beer Floathead will be back. Simpson. What's it called? The Renus VK moved over to Junkos Hollinger to take over one of those cars. Not sure. They had what is it? They had Stingray Raw last year along with Connor Daly. So It doesn't look like Connor's going to be back, but maybe Stingray Rob will be. Um, Ray Hall has. They didn't announce who their third driver will be, but you'd assume that third driver would bring a budget. Um, I would think Marcus Ericsson has to really sweat it. I mean, he finished second in the Indianapolis 500, but he has to be really concerned because you have Dennis Hauger sitting there with a budget, and he's really fast and young. Um, Will Power isn't going to be around very long either. I know they're building their team around Kyle Kirkwood, but I think they're probably wanting Hauger there as well, um, long term for that organization. Um, in terms, uh, Siegel, yeah, he sucks, but Tony Kanaan likes him, and he brings a big pile of cash. So I guess that justifies his existence. Louis Foster signed a long-term extension, so he'll be at Ray Hall. So hopefully Ray Hall puts some things together. Graham Ray Hall is closer to retirement than he is to actually being competitive again. Yeah, some of these other guys are all just budget guys, so we'll see what happens with them. So those are the main changes that'll be in IndyCar next year. Um, I mean, a lot of the focus will be on Penske and how do they recover. There was news a couple of days ago of structural or team structure changes uh, for the team driver you wish was, yeah, that's an easy one. That is Michael Andretti. Oh yeah, and also that Captain America Ryan Hunter-Reay will be back next year for a shot at the Indianapolis 500, trying to win his second Indy 500, but this time he'll be driving the fourth Arrow McLaren car. So that'll be um, a huge opportunity there. Um, Hendricks Commercial Properties and Geronimo Hospitality Group. Okay. A fundraising thing. Caio Colette. So yeah, Brazilian driver goes and oh boy, Brian Barnhart is going to Rahal Letterman Lanigan, and he's going to be the strategist for Graham Rahal. Christ, oh man,
It's
um,
wild.
uh, that is cute. The great Brian Barnhart, he never dies. Yeah, DGR, yeah, that thing looks cool. Um, rebranded 13, but one of a View More, Spencer Hyde. I had seen something in the Racer mail email, so I'll switch from Brettsman. Yeah, so new VMA firings and managing on time. So Jonathan, I can't even pronounce the guy's name. DeGould or whatever, DeGuide or whatever, Cindric's successor earlier this year. And then Travis Law's comp director, 16-year Penske, David Faustino and Ben Brettsman. Faustino will be the technical director and oversee R&D, IndyCar R&D. Brettsman will be the engineering manager of competition. That boy, and so there will be new engineers um, for both the 3 and the 12 cars. Uh, so that'll be interesting to see. Um, include Matt Johnson, new role of assembly manager. So bunch of changes within Penske Racing because of those change because of the issues and stuff that came up uh, earlier this year. And so we'll see what happens. It's a brand new era for Penske. There's been talk that Newgarden might not be there after next year. So it's crazy to think. They built around Will Power for so long and Newgarden and won, what, three Indianapolis 500s and all four championships and God knows how many poles and wins, and Penske's ready to go and move forward. And I think the point you made, like you brought up, which was a good one about the old days when they had their own chassis. I think it's a similar transitional time. They were on the wrong tire. They were on bad years when everyone was running Firestones. They had their own chassis when everyone was running Reynards. Then they just decided to buy a Reynard with Firestone and a Honda engine, do their Penske touches to it, and then they dominated for 2 years with the late Gilles de Ferran. So I mean, it is a transitional time for Penske. Can David Malukas perform? He has had flashes, but he crashes a lot. Newgarden has definitely become more of a villain in recent times. We'll see if he goes back to being who he has been in the past. Now that he basically has to be a co-leader in a sense. McLaughlin, will he take a big step forward and now be that championship contender that Penske essentially invested in first in supercars to get him to the DJR team, to build him up to be that great driver that he was over there, and then to get him to come to the U.S. and make that move, similar to what Justin Marks um, is banking on with SVG in NASCAR Cup Series competition. Um, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm curious to see what will happen in Indy next. Some of those guys, the options, some of the rides that might be open. Miles Rowe, of course, could be in play for Penske or Foyt, um, amongst other guys that might be in there uh, come this time next year. So we will get into NASCAR now. We'll do some relaxing, some rules in bid to improve racing. Okay. So in Cookout and Matt. Okay. So Project 91 to return, free agent driver program for Ram, which that's going to have a different driver every week in that series. Or in that series. Yeah. So every week they'll have different driver in that number 25 truck. They haven't talked about the numbers. Um, yeah, so they haven't made the numbers yet, but I'm thinking they'll have 10, 11, and either 16, I would figure, because those are the numbers that kind of identify with um, the colleague trucks, and you have 25, and then whatever. Uh, got all whatever stats like that. JRM, of course, Travelers Whiskey, running again at the Daytona 500 or attempt the Daytona 500. I didn't know that Brad Keselowski was interested in bringing RFK back to. That would be something. And they actually posted John Force's retirement on J-Ski. Interesting. Bunch of sponsor announcement for Front Row Motorsports, Chevrolet updating the Camaro, even though the Camaro doesn't exist anymore, or won't exist anymore as a production vehicle. go to the Xfinity Series. Yeah, Campgrounds of America. So Connor Zilic. I don't know why they're showing it as the one because or isn't
It's for next year in
yeah
Chicagoland.
but then isn't what do you call uh Carson Quapple driving the one full season?
No, they're
Uh,
splitting the one car, and then Quapple's gonna split another car with somebody else within the org. So
so that's okay. So I guess that means so what's going to happen is he'll be driving the splitting the one and the 88.
something
I
like that.
guess
Yeah.
because that's where it makes sense because Raja Caruth has a limited amount of races, and then um if they're gonna run Connor Zilic, I thought they were running him full time with Rodney Childers. Maybe they are. It's just that they're gonna shift car numbers week to week, but it seems unusual. But oh well, we'll see. Whatever works as long as they're able to um get the job done. Was it Jordan Anderson Racing signs back Jeb Burton? The Brennan Poole will be the lead driver at Alpha Prime. Viking Motorsports with the Parker Retzloff will be a RCR affiliate. Um, Jeremy Clements' team will be part of Haas Factory Team Alliance along with the RSS team. So they'll be basically fielding 5 full-time vehicles out of that organization next year in the Xfinity Series 5 Chevys. And what is it called? You have Josh Williams going back to DGM next year. So there is that. Um, I'm surprised they don't have more of the news. Oh, so Tyler Reif will be driving the 42 full time in 2026 in the truck series for Nice. Not really surprised. Um, he's been running West, Menards West series. Uh, I mean, he brings a budget, of course, so there is that. Um, but he also has shown talent and ability. So open. So he said that passing period more challenging because of tighter rule book. More cars are saying it's just. Well, that's the thing. He says that considers taking them spec out of the next gen. Yeah, but yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious what can they change or how they would change. They still haven't announced the point system yet. I'm assuming they're probably gonna go and do that um after Thanksgiving. Um what is it called? Lancia returning to WRC in Rally 2. Bobby Dale Earnhardt is actually going to be running a full ARCA series season. Rise Motorsports. Huh. Bobby. Tim Goulet. Uh, okay. 38-year-old's first full-time season in the... Oh, that's going to be funny. Oh, boy. All right. Okay, so yeah, those are NASCAR news updates. Go into continue with the roundup here. MotoGP. uh, finished their season at Valencia. Um, go full V4. The results of the let's 20. Why did I do that? 25 Valencia MotoGP. Um, Marco Bezzecchi gets the win over Raul Fernandez in an Aprilia 1-2. Fabio Di Gianantonio finishes third for VR46. Pedro Acosta fourth. Fermin Aldeguer finished ahead of Alex Marquez for the Gresini Ducatis. Then Luca Marini, Brad Binder, Jack Miller, and Enea Bastianini um, rounding out your top 10. For Jorge Pecco Bagnaia didn't even finish the first lap. Morbidelli got through one lap, but was out soon after. Jorge Martin in his last race as champion fell out 15 laps in. Fabio Quartararo fell out with a few laps to go uh, there. So that was the final race. We know the championship, of course, was long completed. Marco Bezzecchi finishes the year out with 2 consecutive victories. Pedro Acosta finishes the year out with 4th, 3rd, and 2nd place finishes, so good momentum for him. Pecco Bagnaia, just an absolutely atrocious end to the year for him after being the champion come a couple of years on into last year, and then now finishes 5th in points. DJ Antonio was 6th. Morbidelli, Aldeguer, Quartararo, Raul Fernandez with his 2nd place finish jumps all the way up to 10th in points there. So in Moto 2, uh, to end the season, Guevara gets the victory over Holgado and Ortola. Morera ends up in 10th. Jake Dixon was 6th. Agus was 7th. Albert Arenas was 5th. No Joe Roberts there. The final standings in Moto 2 saw Morera win the championship by 30 points over Gonzalez. Then Baltus, Canet, Dixon, your top 5. Guevara, with his victory, moves all the way up to 11th. Joe Roberts, no points in the last 3 races, finishes 3 points behind his teammate. And tie there for 12th, so fortunate end to the season for them. That's MotoGP. They're doing testing, of course, at Valencia, postseason testing there, so getting ready for the new season, 2026. Adelaide Grand Final. So the results at Sandown, the Sandown 500 was Chaz Mostert in race 1. Brock Feeney in race 2. Chaz Mostert had won 3 consecutive races to start the playoff before Feeney got the win. And the second part of the Sandown 500, Feeney takes a 20-point lead over Mostert into the final playoff event. Will Brown will be 35 points back, and then so the and then the drivers' standings going into, yeah, and Kai Allen, who has not won a race all year, uh, or a pole as a rookie, will be in the championship for Matthew Payne, who won the Endurance Cup, won 4 races, and a pole, got knocked out after issues on the weekend. Both of the Tickford cars for Cam Waters and Thomas Randall had problems at Sandown during the weekend as well. So Matthew Payne, unfortunately, not doesn't make it, but his teammate does. So Penrite Racing has representation. 2 Fords, 2 Chevys going into that final race. Can Brock Feeney hold on after what has been a dominant season for him? 13 victories at the what do you call it? Was it the an Adelaide? Uh, the old Clipsal 500 um, coming up in a few weeks' time. Uh, the Adelaide Grand Final. Can he go and get the job done there and win his first V8 Supercars championship? So we'll see what happens with that. Uh, go over into, yeah, the NHRA World Finals. There was torrential rains, issues with the weather was horrendous out in California. Um, so that um, so that was that caused issues. They weren't able to race. So that canceled the final race of the season. Then you have, yeah, Rob Flynn will be crew chiefing Maddie Gordon's Top Fuel car next year, which is a Ron Capps Racing Top Fuel car. Um, Crew of the Year awards: Coletta, Proc, Anderson, Herrera, John Force, and Greg Anderson. 1,000 round win club, of course. John Force um, ends up announcing his retirement. Uh, you had Austin Proc, Dallas Glenn, Richard Gadsden joining Doug Coletta as champions for 2025. Spencer Hyde winning Rookie of the Year. A credit to those guys. Yeah, Richard Gadsden getting the victory, so at least it wasn't Gage Herrera. Um, oh wow! Happy birthday, Don Girl. Oh no, that's from a long time ago. Yeah, so that is. So there was a bunch of stuff that went on in NHR, even though they didn't even race. Uh, so there's that, and then we'll go to Macau Grand Prix 2025. Key winners in what did I say? Freddie Slater. Fastest lap was Freddie Diofel. What a name. Mari Boyo was second. Also Charlie the Wirtz. So Alexander Wirtz has 2 kids. Huh? Freddie Slater, Theodore Prema Racing. Yeah, there was actually an American driver there. Wow. Tried in. So basically it was like an F3, yeah, with an inline 4 Tatis 3. It was a Formula 4 event. Okay. Formula Regional, multi-region, multi-spec nature at F3 had been synonymous. Okay. Never even heard of this guy who's set to compete in the FIA Formula 3 Championship for Campos next year. And the guy who finished, Enzo Doligny, he has a goofy nose, finished third. So good for him. Yeah, so Niall Slater, the American guy, actually started 11th. As goes, he last competed in 23rd. Palou, he's a former member of the Red Bull Junior team. Okay. Red Bull, yeah, so 1 to 23. He's not terrible. Who knows? Maybe somebody can get him some money and then he can actually compete in Formula 3. Slater won the qualifying race over Boya and Niall there. Then Niall, Boya there. And Agozi finished 14th. So, okay. Don't know who most of those motherfuckers are. Probably will have to know soon enough. In F1 Academy, it's a season finale for a bunch of the ladies. It's the last time they'll be able to compete. They have, so their first practice will be around this time on Thursday night. We're on Wednesday night around 9:30. They're already showing who they're gonna bring on. Yeah, just a bunch of Ella Lloyd and Ella Stevens. Our 2026 F1 is the current points. Dorian Pan has a 9-point lead on Maya Woog, and that's the battle for the championship there. Ella Lloyd and Chloe Chambers battling for third in points. Chloe Chambers running her last run in the F1 Academy. Jamie Chadwick, who won the W Series and F1 Academy, is been named the official test driver for Genesis and their World Endurance Championship program there. Leah Block currently 10th in points, trying to gain some ground, could move up with a big weekend, could move up a couple of places, but try to maintain top 10 spot and see where that takes her. Of course, she's got rallying stuff going on because, and so even if it doesn't move forward in terms of the open wheel stuff, she's got other options going there. So we'll see what happens at Las Vegas. And there's plenty of themed stuff with Hello Kitty and the like there. So in all these pop-up stores. All right. We will move into the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Was it 3 races to go? Fine. Live coverage. 22 hours before FP1. So they'll actually have FP1 at they're actually gonna have at 7:30. Is that what that is? Or is it 18? So 6:30. Yeah. Okay, yeah. But I'm curious to see how things will go. We got all these cool helmets, that are gonna be there for the race this coming weekend. They'll be racing late into the night on Saturday night for the race in Las Vegas. In terms of the drivers' standings, Lando Norris has a 24-point lead on Oscar Piastri. Verstappen is 25 points behind Piastri. So uh, once we get past this week, if he's 50 points behind, either once he falls 50 points, he's 49 points back. So if he's 50 points behind, or if he's 50, I guess 52 points behind, leaving Las Vegas, he will lose the Drivers' Championship for the first time since 2020. Should have been since 2021, but uh, because he did lose that race, but whatever. But yeah, so that'll be that. They have to look at George Russell, Charles Leclerc, who've had good performances at Las Vegas over the years, recent years. Lewis has had a mixed bag. Um, it's a tough circuit. It's the upside down pig. Um, they had a great post on motorsport.com with
I saw that.
yeah, which was outstanding, and it just made me laugh, so I had to share it with Spider Pig. So, um, I mean, Lando's been on a great run recently, Josh. Uh, does it continue here? Or does somehow or another Oscar Piastri pull something out of his ass with this race, and then knowing that Qatar is going to have a mandatory 25 lap maximum on a set of tires to force um, two pit stop two pit stops at the Qatar Grand Prix. Um, that's gonna change it up a little bit, affect strategy. But this race, they have flooding going on, but I think it sounds like they're not gonna have that problem once, as long as there's no rain or major rain. But what are your thoughts? Who do you think will make it happen this weekend under the lights in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to go against any of the McLarens, but especially hard to go against Lando Norris. I mean, I could also see Piastri turn it around here this weekend, but the past couple of races he's had opportunities to get back into the championship and either extend his lead or try to close the gap against Lando, but just hasn't been able to do it. Obviously, making tons of mistakes or having issues there. So I see. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Lando Norris winning the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I'll say George Russell finishes on second and Piastri gets third. So yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. The Ferraris have had success here in recent years, but they've been quite off here lately. So yeah, it'll be a really good one. Yeah, I think this will be the race that Verstappen a year after he clinched his fourth championship. This will be the race where he gets eliminated. I think officially from the title race. So and it'll just come down to the two McLarens over the next two races after that. So yeah, that's what I'll go with.
I was just saying for you said Lando and then
George Russell,
um, George Russell.
Piastri.
Okay. And Oscar Piastri. All right. I'm gonna go. I'll go against the grain here. I'll go with George Russell to win. Uh,
Okay.
to win, I will say because I want to actually have the championship be interesting. Oscar Piastri wakes up for the first time in a while in second, and Lando Norris in third, which will only affect a couple of points, but still, it's something. Qualifying is going to be, it always is huge, but I think qualifying is going to make a huge difference. Friday night, trying to go and get that track position, because while there is, DRS zones and the like, I think it's going to be um, a lot like Singapore, where the tire management and also the temperature management will be key. With the wear on these power units, uh, getting into race 22 of the season could have some problems that way. So, curious to see how Ferrari, the drivers, respond this weekend after John Elkins' stupid comments. Um, what they can do out there on the racetrack. Ferrari's had a decent time at Las Vegas in the few years they've been there. Can they actually show up? Uh, what does Lewis do here these last three races to go and set a tone again, essentially for 2026? Something that we have to look at. So yeah, Josh, your time to discuss all things iRacing gaming and the sim segment.
Mentioned it earlier with the Hoosier 500 coming up, so got to start looking at that and preparing for that. So trying to need to get the qualifying setup dialed in to something there. So we'll take a look at that. I guess this week and first bit of next week, and then of course Thanksgiving, and then the week of for qualifying after that. So we'll be looking at that for sure. 2 weeks from yesterday, or from Monday. So December 1 opening day for qualifying, or for practice on that. So we'll be trying to shoot for that, I guess, here in a couple weeks. So for that, it'll be interesting to go through and try to see if we can make it. I mean, obviously a lot of people entered, and obviously Tanner's got significant involvement in this one this time. So I think there's definitely a lot of renewed interest, especially with they've got the performance racing industry sponsoring it. So that'll be interesting and get some much needed attention on the iRacing IndyCar community there. So and definitely be a lot of good exposure for that. So definitely looking at doing that. Of course, then I did start racing IndyCar on the oval side, of course, just to get back into it. Of course, there on Pocono on iRacing. So had a couple of good runs there. A couple of runs where I think I tried to avoid an accident, somebody just flying in the air, and try to avoid him, and I think he barely clipped me, and then as I was trying to avoid him, I hit a bump on the back straight and hit the wall. So obviously forgot that Pocono is very bumpy below the racing line on the back stretch, so on the Long Pond straight there. So that was definitely part of it, but obviously dirty air is going to be a thing, especially Indianapolis, of course. And hopefully with the difference in setups, there'll definitely be a lot spread out in the field. Of course, the fixed series that I usually run on the IndyCar, there was a lot of, it's been very draft heavy. This, I guess, since they've made some updates here recently, which I'm not sure how much I really like, because with it being so draft heavy, it's just made it pretty much I think all the Indy races that I ran, or all the IndyCar races that I've run since I think the latest iRacing update, it's just been basically pack racing, and it's basically just hard to. I mean, it's always going to be kind of a draft race, but it's always been, or lately it's been really, really spread out, or not spread out, but very packed, and you can go half throttle and everything. like that. So with the open or the Hoosier 500, you expect it to be pretty spread out with all the setup variations and stuff there. So yeah, hopefully can make it in there and everything, and have a good run and everything like that. So yeah, we'll be preparing for that. Yeah, otherwise, think let's see other. I think iRacing also this weekend, the SCCA runoffs on iRacing this weekend. So yeah, definitely be maybe looking at that. I don't know. We'll see how much time I have this weekend. Of course, I think yeah, there's some other iRacing on the sim side or on the road side of things. Yeah, Charlotte Speedway for the MX5 Cup. Um, for production cars at Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. Sebring in the TCR Virtual Challenge. LMP2s at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. The Toyota GR86 Cup at Sebring this week. So got that there. Of course, NASCAR off season right now. Yeah, NASCAR at or Xfinity at Dover this weekend or this week. Gen 4 at Rockingham. NASCAR Cup at North Wilkesboro. I think that's with the repave there. Trucks at I guess trucks at Phoenix, maybe. I don't know. That might be wrong. There, the winter iRacing tour at Phoenix Oval. So yeah, we'll be definitely be looking at that there. So yeah, but mostly yeah, focusing on the Hoosier 500 for the next couple of weeks here, and everything. So definitely gonna have to do a lot of prep for that setup wise, especially. So yeah, we'll go from there. But yeah, of course, I mean we'll be streaming all that. Of course, probably for qualifying at the very least, or the race if we somehow make it in at U32 on iRacing or on Twitch on there, which you see all my iRacing on there. Then we'll see how that goes. Of course, yeah, for the socials, of course, at JPL Fine on Twitter, and Gripster Podcast on YouTube. Go in there and follow us on there, and then of course, photography page posted up some good pictures from Phoenix a couple weeks ago at JP Huff or at Josh Huff on photography on Instagram for photography, of course, and yeah, that's it for me. So yeah, good to be back, and in the midst of football season now, and of course racing tuning down for the rest of the year, mostly outside of F1, but we're almost done with that. So yeah, we'll keep on going here, and hopefully fantasy turns around, and we'll see return for the playoffs for me, and maybe hopefully return playoffs for the Jaguars in real life football. So yeah, should be hopefully a good next couple of weeks in that department.
Definitely discuss everything in regards to the rest of the NFL season. We'll also try to get some people on to go and talk about other series. I mean, specifically Cup. I know next week probably um, to be determined on next week. Really, could spend more time on football, make it a little easier because it's a Thanksgiving week. I think the following week will be our Cup review. Maybe we could do Xfinity, or I think maybe Xfinity is a little more straightforward. Or Trucks, because Trucks was just garbage. But we'll do something like that. We'll talk about football next week because the Niners will be on Monday Night Football. You can find us, of course, on that Gripster Podcast on YouTube, as Josh mentioned. Also, GSP 1428 on YouTube for the just a straight audio feed. The Our regular page has both audio video. Find me on Twitter at pgmatthew28. You can find me on pgmgsp28 on Insta, and you can also find the Gripster podcast at philipgmatthew.com and on podbean.com. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening to the Grip Strip podcast, and we'll see you next time.